Hey guys. Okay, so I keep getting requests for this video. Also get individual requests from quite a bit of people on what specific tools I use for a full groom on really any client, but primarily these are what I use on my Schnauzer clients, specifically giant Schnauzer clients for you and the Schnauzer group. So this is for just a clippered pet trim. This is not gonna cover specifics on hand stripping tools. I am going to briefly mention them just because someone did ask, but it's slightly different. The scissoring and stuff and the clipper work is still the same. I still do the same on my hand strip dogs versus my pet trim dogs. Spicy, what do you have? Hey, what is that? Oh, it's a ball. Okay. 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 So this is just a brief description of the basic tools that you're going to need to start out with to complete a full groom on a clippered Schnauzer. And I'm going to explain what each tool is used for, as well as touch on some safety features. So you want to start with a freshly bathed and completely dry dog. They also have to be brushed out. So if you do not have a clean dog or a dry dog, you're going to struggle with the groom. Your clipper blades are not going to work properly. You're going to damage your clipper blades to where they're going to be, they're not going to work properly. They're going to need to see a sharpener and be resharpened. So always start with a clean and dry dog. Now, when it comes to the brushing aspect, the tools that I use with great success are fairly basic. A long pen slicker brush. This is a Christensen core brush. It is on the pricier side. It's about $75, $80. But the key feature is the long pens. Now, if you have a thick-coated, soft-coated Schnauzer, this is going to be your best friend. Otherwise, if you have a hard-coated Schnauzer, you can use these. These are just kind of damaging on the, more fragile, harsh coats. But for a soft-coated dog like the one in my full groom video, this is what I use on him. This is going to be one of the only things that's going to get through his thick hair and help prevent any matting or anything. Your typical slicker brush that you're going to get at any pet store is going to be a really, really short pen slicker brush. That's not going to get through all of that thick hair. So this is why I strongly suggest a long pen slicker brush. You don't have to get the Christensen one. You can get a cheaper one. Just be careful with buying any from, say, Amazon that are the knockoff brands, because the key with these brushes, they have really soft, dulled pens. The pens are not sharp, they're not cut at an angle, they are machine dulled, so they're really, really soft. You're not gonna scratch a dog unless you're just like vigorously brushing way too hard. On the cheaper brushes, they are not pre-dulled. You do have to dull them. You can get a good brush similar to this off-brand for about 20 bucks. Just make sure that you dull the pins. The key with that is on a sensitive part of your arm, if it's scratching you and hurting you, it's gonna hurt your dog. So what you can do is you can go outside, find some concrete, and then just kind of swirl it and brush it back and forth in multiple directions to help pre-dull those pins. That is for the knockoff brand of the Christensen brush. Now, Groomer Supply House does have a cheaper version. This is the larger brush in comparison. Christensen makes one this size. This one was about 40 bucks, so it is definitely more affordable versus the $80 for this one. There's just different price points, just to give you an idea of the different options. Now, for the harsh-coated dogs that have, the more coarse, thin furnishings, a pen brush is going to work well for you. This will not damage your dog's coat. Sorry, I've got hair in it because I was just brushing a dog. This is not going to damage your dog's coat. You still don't just rip through the hair. If you're trying to get length on your furnishings, then use a pen brush. And then with both coats, whether you use a pen brush on a hard-coated dog or a slicker brush on a soft-coated dog, always follow up with a metal comb. this is my large metal comb. I do a lot of large dogs, so I always go to this one. They do come in different sizes. Just kind of make sure you get one, this one's beat up, so I'm sorry, with the thicker gap as well as the thinner gap, because this will catch the tangles after you're brushing, especially up close to the skin and the beard and in the legs. Check like any sensitive areas like the armpits. If you find a mat, do not try to rip it out with a comb. You're gonna hurt your dog. Try to get it with a brush if you can. If not, it will have to be shaved. So that covers the brushes. Now onto the clipper work. That is pretty much based off of preference. Length, totally what you like your dog to look like. What I use on my retired dog as well as my client dog, I use a number 5 blade, which is this. It's short, but it's not super short. I like this length on most dogs. It helps with not getting the dog too short for our really hot summers. It also helps with blending the pattern line. If you go really short, you're gonna have a harder time blending that pattern line. A lot of my pet clients like the length a little bit shorter, which is a 7 blade. That's this one right here. Trying to not get it on the glare. This is an older blade, so. Now this is the standard Schnauzer pattern blade that a lot of groomers will stick to, or at least most. This is my default length, is a number 7. You can go shorter, you can do a number 10. I just don't like to because it's quite a bit shorter. I don't have a dog to show you an example of. So as far as the jacket, the body goes, I personally prefer to use a number 5 on a clippered dog. You can go longer, you can use a number 4. It's gonna give a more natural look to it. But if someone really wants and is persistent on a shorter length, I stick with the 5. Otherwise, my typical, just like pet clients, they get a 7. For the cheek pattern, the butt pattern, I use a 10 reverse. That is going to be your standard length. Let me see here. The blades are all numbered. They have the length on them. The color, this one's black compared to this over one's. The color really doesn't matter. This is a competition series. For you guys doing pet trims, it doesn't really matter which blade you get. There's different quality of blades. I like the Andis for your average pet groom. I groom multiple dogs every day, so I do have a slightly higher quality blade for my go-to blades. It's the Guy Buttercut blades. You don't have to do that. You can stick with the Andis blades. This is a wall blade. The wall blades are also really good as well. I love wall. The customer service is great as well. But for the cheek and the rear and the neck, the pattern on those, a 10 reverse. 1, it is the safest length. If you go any longer, the teeth are wider, so it is a higher risk of catching any skin and cutting your dog. And then 2, it's a really clean finish. Sorry, Spicy's running around, so she's quite the distraction. So try to stick with the number 10. If you go any shorter, it's gonna be super short. Especially just keep in mind a 10 reverse. So that's against the hair grain, that is against the hair growth. It is going to give you a much cleaner finish. If you try to go with the hair, you're gonna end up with a lot of different length, like patchy look. So dogs have cowlicks in different spots. It just depends on the dog, as far as what direction you're going. Just try to remember to go against the hair. Now that is for, like I said, the cheek and the rear. When it comes to ears, if you are not very experienced with shaving ears, especially natural ears, stick with the 10 for the top of the ear. I'm very experienced with this. I use a different length. On my pet trims, I will use anywhere from a 10 to a 15. It gives a cleaner finish. I don't like to go shorter than that on the ears on my pet dogs, just because their skin's usually not used to it, and I'm trying to avoid them shaking their head at all costs. The more they shake their head, especially if they have natural ears, the more likely they are to cause hematomas on the ears. So I stick with a 10 or a 15. A 15 is shorter than a 10. The higher the number, the shorter it goes. On the inside of the ear, I use a 40 blade. A 40 blade, you have to be very, very careful with. If you are not experienced, stick with the 10. Do not use a 40. It is extremely, extremely easy to cut a dog with a 40 blade. I forgot to clean this one out because I just used it. So this is a 40 blade. It is considered a surgical blade. It is extremely short. Do not use this on your dog's body. Only use this for the inside of the ears if you are experienced with clipping ears as well as using a 40 blade. I also only use the 40 blade for the pads, like the underside of the foot. If you're not experienced with shaving dog paw pads, don't use a 40. You will cut your dog and you will not even feel it until your dog is bleeding. Stick with a 10. And do not put a lot of pressure whenever you are shaving the paw pads. It does not take a lot of pressure. You do not have to be heavy-handed. A very light hand, let your clipper do all the work. And go around, don't go in between. Because those dogs, they have those the edges of skin with the ligaments and everything inside of them that you will catch and you very, very easily can cut. So stick with the 10 if you're not experienced. Do not use a 40. If you are experienced and you want a cleaner finish, use a 40. I really, really enjoy the finish of a 40. On my show dogs, on the dogs that are used to it, their skin is used to it, I do a 40 on the outside of the ear and I do a 40 reverse on the inside of the ear. That is only for the dogs that are used to it. Otherwise, if the dog's skin is not used to it, I never go that short. Now for the legs, the furnishings, whenever it comes to different lengths, you can use any length you want. If you want a super short Schnauzer pattern, you can use a 4 blade, which is going to be longer. Like I said, the higher the number, the shorter the length. So the lower the number, the longer the length. You can use anywhere from a 4 blade up to a hand scissor dog. It's strictly on your preference. The dog in my video, I believe, was 1.5 inches long. With him, I kind of go anywhere between 1 inch to 1.5 inches. I don't like going longer on him just because he has so much hair. He would have to come in more often. And since I did place him in a pet home, I do not groom him every week like I used to. So I just try to still give the really nice full pattern look without causing his owner a lot of grief with super high maintenance or causing the dog grief with leaving him more susceptible to matting. So when it comes to the legs or the furnishings, like I said, that is up to preference. You can go as short as you want. Your dog doesn't have to have a Schnauzer pattern, but if you want a Schnauzer pattern, you're gonna need clipper combs. Now, I use my clipper combs on top of a 30 blade. That is, like I said, it's shorter than a 10, it's slightly longer than a 40. I use a 30 blade underneath all of my comb attachments. So these fit on here. I'll show you an example. Just kind of pop your clipper, your blade on your clipper, and these are just gonna snap right on. Well, usually. They do make different clipper combs. These are the Oster brand, up to the 2 inches. It's a big 2-inch comb. Very rarely do I use this because a lot of people don't like to pay for the groom, much less the maintenance on a 2-inch long dog. So they just snap on. And you will just use this on the furnishings. It's very similar to how you use a blade. It's just a longer attachment. Like I said, I put those over a 30. You can use a 10 underneath the clipper comb. I don't like the finish. It is a slightly rougher finish. And sometimes your clipper comb attachments can be very finicky depending on which ones you get. Sometimes they'll eat the teeth off of your blade. So you just have to be very careful with it. I have great success with using a 30 underneath these specific clipper combs. Now, when it comes to clippers, that again is strictly up to preference. My preference is I stick to cordless because I'm grooming anywhere from 8 to 9 to 10 dogs a day, 5 days a week, plus my own dogs. So I use my clippers a lot. You're gonna ask, if you ask 10 different people what clippers they use, you're probably gonna get 10 different answers. It is strictly up to preference. Everybody has their own individual preference. Some people swear by one brand while others hate it. So it really just depends. Price point is a big factor for a lot of people, as well as the longevity of the clipper, the functionality of the clipper, the different features, as well as customer service whenever it comes to the company and manufacturer. So my all-time favorite is Wahl. I swear by Wahl. I have had multiple of their clippers and I love them. Actually, I have 3 sitting in front of me right now. I have 2 Andis clippers. One of them I absolutely hate. I hate it. I do not recommend it. Like I said, quite a few other groomers recommend the one that I hate and swear by it. So that's just my personal preference. It is currently sitting up on a shelf up there. Oh no, it's not. It's in its charger. It quit working on me probably about 8 or 9 months ago, and I just don't care to fix it because I just cannot stand it. Now, for a corded clipper, I do have one somewhere. Here we go. Starting off, a lot of people start with corded clippers. Granted, this is an Andis clipper, but it's kind of missing the cover on the top, so let's ignore that. I stole the blade drive out of it. I haven't used this clipper in forever. It is a corded clipper. It is the Andis AGC Super 2-speed. Wonderful, wonderful clipper, especially for a beginner clipper. I think it's around $200. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked at the price on this one for a while, but it's a really, really nice clipper. It is a workhorse, shockingly. It is very heavy, and if the cord is gonna be, you know, kind of painful and annoying for you, well, maybe try it out. If it doesn't work for you, you can always return it. But for a corded clipper, I do strongly recommend this one. It is the Andis 2-speed. Okay, now my cordless ones. The one I have had the longest is the KM10 cordless, the coral one. I've had this one for about 5 years now. This specific one, I've sent it off to Wahl once and they repaired it no problem. I love Wahl. Their customer service is great, their service department is great, and their products are great. I swear by this. If something ever happens to this one, I'm buying another one. Now, that being said, a lot of people don't like it. It's a cordless. It is kind of heavy, but it's a workhorse. I use this one every single day on every single dog. I also have the new one, the KMX cordless. I've had this one since May, I think, March. I've had it since the spring. Love this clipper. It is just like this one. I absolutely love these. I 100% recommend them if they're within your budget. Now, if you're only grooming your one dog once every 4 to 6 weeks, you really, unless you just want to, you really don't need these. These are workhorses. They're gonna do very, very well for you. I was gonna go over something and I forgot. I see a lot of people asking in the groups, and some other people recommend this. This specifically is the Wahl Bravura. It is a 5-in-1 clipper. Oh, that's what it is. Each of these comes with a cord. The cords, I don't know if you can see. No, you can't see that. They're hung up on the wall, so I can't take them. It does come with a cord. That's a really neat feature of these. You can just plug it in, set it down, and let it charge, or you can use these with the cord. That's a really neat feature of these. Some of the corded clippers or cordless clippers, you cannot do that. So that is a neat feature of these. I hardly ever do that because I have multiple to go between. And I'm a stickler for charging my clippers in between use. So that is another bonus feature of the Wahl KM10 cordless or the KMX cordless. Price point for these are about $300 to $350. And then the KMX cordless is about $450. So they are pricier, but they work well for me considering the amount of grooms that I do. But back to the Bravura. The Bravura is a 5-in-1 clipper. That means that your blade is not interchangeable like the other ones. It does come off and you can use different blades. it just, okay, well, it's supposed to pop right off. Yeah, it's dirty. It's got hair in it because I used it. It does pop off, but they call them 5-in-1s because it is 5 blades in one. So it goes between a number 9 to a 40. So it goes from 9, 10, 15, 30 to 40. So it alternates lengths. It can change. These are not gonna get you through a full groom. These are super affordable. They're about $180. It's a cordless, another feature with wall. You can plug the cord in, or you can set it in a base and it stands up while it charges. But these are not gonna be strong enough to get you through a full groom. You can use them for, say, like paw pads. You can use them for the clipper work on the cheeks and the rear. But if you have a very, very heavy, very thick coated dog, it will eventually start to struggle. It is not a very strong clipper. I use this clipper on my small dogs, like my Maltese, my Yorkies. I also use this on my poodle for her clipper work because, yes, while she is a thick coated dog, I don't let her coat get super long on her clipper pattern. I use this for her shaved face, I use this for her feet, and I use this for her clipper pattern. But as far as a full groom on a giant Schnauzer, there's no way. You might be able to get through it once, but you're gonna struggle with it after that if you can get through it once. I do not recommend these for a full groom. They're really, really good to have as just like a, you know, a touch-up clipper for paw pads. The ears, they're great for ears, but most dogs, it's even gonna struggle with the clipper work on the necks and the rears. But some dogs it does fine with. It just depends on the coat, and it also depends on how you maintain your blades. So since we talked about blades and clippers, and I mentioned maintenance, you have to maintain your blades. You have to keep them oiled with every use. If you don't, they're going to dry out, and the friction is going to cause your blades to get hot, which in turn does dull your blades a lot faster. A hot blade on a dog is also going to injure your dog. So one, make sure you're keeping your blades cool. Make sure you're oiling them once, just tiny, tiny drops of blade oil on the cutter, which is this piece. It's actually the piece that moves back and forth. Just drip like 2 drops, 1 on each end, probably about every 10 minutes. And then you also want to make sure you keep the hair out of the blades. That will help the longevity of your blades. When you notice your blades start getting dull, you will have to find a sharpener. You can ask local groomers, even Spicy, even local barbers, local cosmetologists, who their blade sharpener as well as shear sharpener is. We'll touch on that in a minute. But yes, you do need to maintain your blades. Make sure you clean them, make sure you oil them, and then make sure you have regular sharpening done to keep them nice and sharp so they don't struggle through coat, they don't get dull, and it'll make these last a lot longer versus having to pay for a new blade. So, once you're done with all your clipper work on your jacket, your legs, and everything, then it is time for your scissor work. So that again boils down to preference. You have the same group of tools, but you can have different lengths, different brands, different styles. It's all about preference. You're gonna stick with, and what you're probably going to be using is a straight, a curve, a thinner, and possibly a chunker, which some other people call blenders. There's 4 different types, and I use them all. Depends on the dog, depends on the dog's coat. So let me get one of each out. Okay, so yes, these are an 8.5 inch, I believe. They're either 8.5 or 9 inches, I can't remember. So this is a large shear for a large dog. I use large shears on my large dogs, clearly because of the size. Do you mind? Sorry. So this is a straight, and then you also use a curve. It's a curved shear. You see how the actual blades of the shear are curved. So straights and curves. And then you have your thinners. They have less teeth. I'm sorry, they have more teeth. This is gonna be what you're gonna use for your blending. Like around the pattern lines on the head, whether it be from the eye to the ear or the eye to the mouth, thinners. You can also use these on the pattern line on the body to just blend the line in better. It really just depends on how, I do a lot of my blending with my clipper work, so I really don't use any thinners or chunkers on the actual body of the dog. My show dogs, depending on the coat, I will use chunkers in certain areas. It just really depends. But primarily my thinners and chunkers are for the head. These are the chunkers. They have way less teeth. They are a more aggressive shear. So here's the two side by side. More teeth is a thinner, less teeth is a chunker. This is going to take off more hair versus these. You will have to use these much more than you would have to use these. Granted, these are less forgiving. So there's a trade-off. You can use these and not have to use these at all. It depends on your preference. I use my chunkers a lot. And you know, there's different makes. Here's a larger curve. This is also a different brand. So it strictly boils down to preference on most of the shears. Spicy, stop it. So like here's another one. I have a double swivel shear. These are for professional groomers primarily, to help us save our wrist. You don't need those. Those are really, unless you're grooming a ton of dogs, I really wouldn't recommend those. So that covers shears. Again, too, with the shears, you need to maintain them. Keep them clean. Always wipe off. Just obviously don't wipe with the blade. And then also always keep these guys oiled. When they start squeaking or you notice they're getting a little stiff, check the tension with the little tension knob on here. You can loosen or tighten to your preference. And then use shear oil and make sure they stay lubed all the time. Otherwise, you will run into some problems. Now, I think that is almost it. Someone asked about how to clean the ears. I will have to do a second part of this at home later because I forgot to bring my iPad with me to work so I can read off the questions and address them in this video. But for the ears, to pluck ear hair, you're gonna need ear powder. Spicy! You're gonna need ear powder. This helps to absorb the oils on the hair as well as give you extra grip, and it makes the hair come out a lot easier. The ear hair is already 9 times out of 10 easy to pluck anyway. So I do have a small segment on that I will attach at the end on how I pluck my ears. Now, this is what I use, the Davis ear powder. I love this stuff. A little bit goes a long way. Don't load your dog's ear up with ear powder. Also, too, another way is you can dust it on your fingers and pluck the hair that way if your dog is really, really sensitive as far as like what goes in their ear. And if your dog has ear infection issues, just put some on your fingers and pluck the hair that way. I wouldn't put this in the ear canal. But for your average dog, it's fine. I always do my ear hair first and then I clean it with a medicated ear cleaner anyway. And I do that before the bath. So the dog's ears get cleaned twice afterwards anyway. So that is what I use. If you have really stubborn hair, I don't recommend yanking it out, but you can use hemostats for hair because sometimes it's really awkward to get in there. Don't force these into your dog's ear canal. That is very dangerous. Just pull the hair on the surface, the hair that you can see. You can use hemostats to grip the hair. And then also too, you can use, say like latex gloves. That'll help with gripping the hair and the powder. I can't, I am severely allergic to latex and non-latex gloves, so I can't use those. Otherwise I'd have some to show you, but I don't. Otherwise, ear powder and fingers work really, really well. It's super simple. If the hair is fighting you, not coming out, leave it. I do not over pluck ears. I'm not going to rip hair out of a dog's ear. But other than that, I think that's it for this part as far as the tools go. In my video for the full groom, I do briefly mention every tool that I'm using, what length I'm using, and how I'm using it. So if I did miss anything, Spicy, stop. Yes, you're in trouble. Then go to that video. It's like an hour and a half long. I know it's a lengthy video, but I do cover everything that I have covered in this one as far as what tools I'm using, except for the 5-in-1. I don't use this on that dog. I'm pretty sure I don't. I stick with my cordless with my actual blades because, like I said, not a good suggestion for full grooms on dogs. Yeah, I think that's it. The other portions, addressing all the other questions, will be in a second part. Okay, I actually forgot to go over the hand stripping tools. Hand stripping tools, that's another really, really big individual preference. That is just going to depend on what works well for your hand, what works well for the coat you're using it on, as well as what is comfortable for you to use, which goes into what's comfortable for your hand. I have very limited tools that I am using because I've gotten rid of all the ones that I don't like to use. I've done anywhere from using a glove and powder, well, the ear powder on softer coated dogs, to using just my bare fingers on my hard coated dog. It really just depends. The ones that I keep with me at all times, honestly don't even remember what brand this is. I got it at a dog show. I think it's very similar to the Ashley Craig stripping knife. So this is a right-handed stripping knife. It's a fine tooth one. And then this one is my carding knife. I strictly just use this to card out undercoat. So this is a right-handed one. So that's what I use for undercoat. I'll use this for undercoat as well in the finer, shorter areas, like along the sides of the neck, the back of the thighs, etc. These are the McClellan stripping knives. I came across these at a dog show and I snatched them because I've heard extremely good things about these. I hate the way they fit in my hand. I keep them because for the more stubborn parts of a softer coated dog, I do use these. I have a fine tooth one and the traditional one, I guess. But you can kind of see, maybe it'll focus. And then my absolute primary tool that I use on pretty much all dogs, whether they be softer coated dogs or hard coated dogs, is my skipper stripper. Mine is covered in vet wrap because otherwise these things are extremely uncomfortable to hold. So I do that so it fits in my palm really, really comfortably. But it's got two edges, and this is made out of steel. So it's a steel bar with grit on both ends. It's got a curved end for your thumb. You can use it that way to pull, or sometimes I use it this way. Now, I've got blisters from using it because it's not forgiving at all. And then it also has, which you can barely see, a wedge end on it. You can use that for, I use the wedge end for some of the detail work. A lot of people use the curved end for detail work. It just, preference. Now this is made and sold by a groomer that is a hand strip specialist. His name is Skip. He doesn't have a website, I don't believe. I ordered this like 4 years ago. I had to order it through him personally, through Facebook, but he does make different sizes. He does now have an aluminum version of this, so it's a little bit lighter. It's not so heavy, because with hand stripping, you really want something that's comfortable for your wrist. But that's what I use. And then you can also get these little, because I'm allergic to latex, if you can't use gloves, use little latex grippers. Silicone grippers, not latex, sorry. They just, you can get them off of Amazon. You can get them in, I think, the sewing section at some craft stores. But got these off of Amazon. Just Google, you know, like silicone finger guards or thumb guards, and they come in multiple sizes, and I think it came with 12. But I like these. They're comfortable. They're not too tight for my fingers personally, and it'll give that little bit of extra grip. that's all I have for my hand stripping tools, because that is all I use. I really don't use, like I said, I stick to this. I rarely ever use my other knives. That's why I only have 4 of them currently, because knives don't work well for me. I don't like the way they fit in my hand. I am much, much better and more comfortable with a stone or my skip stripper. Now, the Puma stones, you can get anywhere. I don't know if I have, I've got my tiny one, my little bitty one that definitely needs to be replaced. This was an Artero stone. Clearly, as you can see, I need a new one. I thought I had another one. Oh, I do. Okay, here's a couple different ones. This is gonna be longer than I thought. So, 2 Artero stones. If a stone is too big for you, you can shape these. You can cut them. They actually cut really easily, and you can shape them, which these are shaped the way they are because it's just from me using them. That's why this one kind of has a little divot for my thumb, but I still like using these because they fit really well in my hand. These I haven't used so much because it's a relatively new stone that I just cut in half. It fit like this, and I just cut it in half. It was much longer, and I cut it in like 3 sections. This is a slightly different textured stone. It's gonna be softer in your hands versus this one. I don't remember where this one came from, but it eventually starts taking shape with use. This one's got rounded edges now because I have used it. Depending on the dog, I will also use these to pull out undercoat. This is really nice to get a lot of this really, really fine fuzzy stuff out. So that pretty much covers all my hand stripping tools. With me, if say like you take a lesson from me and you have hand stripping tools of your own, or you want to try out the stuff that I use, it really just depends on your dog's coat. And it also depends on what's comfortable for your hands, because that is, taking care of your hands is the key factor to grooming dogs, specifically hand stripping as well. So, yeah.
Okay. This is going to be the second part of my video where I'm explaining and going over the questions that you guys asked in the comments on my post on Facebook. This whole video will be posted to YouTube, so I can share the link to the Facebook group. So if you're seeing this from YouTube, the group that I am mentioning is the Grooming the Giant Schnauzer group on Facebook. You can just search it, request to join it. It's full of a lot of groomers, as well as those of us that breed, show, and groom our own giants. You know, feel free to join, ask any questions that you may need. But I am a professional groomer. I groom my own dogs, and I also show my giants. So that's just a little bit of background on me. This is going to be the second part of this video, and I apologize for those of you that have been waiting for this video for a while. Life got pretty crazy. So this is just me going over the questions that you guys asked in the comments on my post. If you would like to ask any more questions that you either didn't get to ask on my post, or you have follow-up questions or anything, feel free to ask. I do just want to give you a heads up. If there are questions like how to groom this part, how to groom that part, those usually require an actual like visual representation, and that's kind of hard to make really small, you know, videos for each individual part. So I did just want to let you guys know that I do offer for you to take video lessons. You know, we can do 30 minutes at a time. And if you guys just want to get with me on that, so I can go over and show you on a dog what I am talking about, as far as like, I got questions on, you know, how to do the head, how to do the eyebrows, what the pattern lines were on the head from like the eye to the ear, or how to lift the rear leg to do the sanitary and belly area. That stuff is kind of hard to explain without you seeing how it's done. So if you really want something, you know, in depth or detailed like that for specific areas that you're struggling with, then just please send me a private message and we can get together with that with the video chat. So I do have a full pet groom video on YouTube. It's linked multiple times in the grooming group, and it's also here on my YouTube channel. So just feel free to, you know, find that. It covers the entire giant Schnauzer pet trim. It is a clippered trim. I will not be posting any hand strip videos just because that is all about technique, not necessarily like, you know, correct patterns and whatnot. I do teach hand stripping hands-on. So if you guys, you know, if you'd like to travel, I know traveling is hard, but I am located like 5 minutes outside of Beaumont, Texas. And I do offer hands-on lessons for either how to, you know, clip or groom if you want to learn how to, you know, pet groom your Schnauzer, or if you're interested in learning how to hand strip your Schnauzer, I do teach hands-on lessons for that. So just get with me for that if that is something that you are interested in. Other than that, if you're too far away, you know, Beaumont, Texas, we're kind of close to Houston, you know, an hour or 2 hours, depending on where you're at in Houston. If you're too far for that, like I said, I do offer video lessons. So, okay, the first question is, what is a good bathing schedule? A good bathing schedule is really, really like person dependent and dog dependent. So it depends on what your lifestyle is like. It depends on what your needs are and personally what you prefer. So my personal dogs, I bathe once a week. That's just because I do show my dogs, so I do have to maintain their coat for shows. I do grooming competitions, so I maintain their coat for grooming competitions. And my dogs are house dogs. They are only outside for like yard play, potty breaks, when we're training, stuff like that. So my dogs do stay inside, and since we do lead a very active lifestyle, my dogs get bathed at least once a week, sometimes more frequently. So it really just depends on your dog. For a softer coated dog, if you're trying to keep them longer, they are going to be more high maintenance. I used to bathe my soft coated guy. I used to bathe him once a week, and that kept him relatively smelling fresh and kept him mat and tangle free, and really, really was good for maintaining his hair. My hard-coated female, I bathe her legs at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, just because I'm trying to grow hair for dog shows this year. But her jacket, I rarely have to bathe. I bathe her jacket maybe once every month or two, just because her coat is super dirt repellent and she doesn't smell. So bathing schedule, like I said, it's dog dependent. If we go hiking, or, you know, if we go swimming, do dock diving, stuff like that, obviously they get bathed more often. So it just depends. Products and shampoo, that is another thing that is really just personal preference. That can be dog dependent. It depends on the dog's coat, and it also depends on your location and what your water is like. So if you have hard water versus soft water, some products work completely different for you. I have used a wide variety of different products. On my soft coated guy, I would have to use a wire coat texturizing shampoo for his jacket because he had a super soft jacket. So I was trying to help bring in texture. For his furnishings, I had to use stuff that was heavily conditioned because he had a lot of coat on his legs. And to keep it matte and tangle free, I really had to keep it deeply conditioned. So I used conditioning shampoos, nothing that was drying, like no oatmeal stuff. I hate oatmeal shampoos and oatmeal conditioners because as much as that is pushed, oatmeal is super drying. It is not conditioning. So I used a lot of heavily conditioning shampoos and a deep conditioner on his legs at least once a week. On my hard-coated girl, I use a conditioning shampoo on her furnishings as well, and I use a deep conditioner on her legs and then a leave-in conditioner on her legs, and that's super dog dependent. Specifically for black dogs, there's a couple of black dog shampoos My favorite is the Chris Christensen Black on Black. I love that one. It's a black shampoo. It just helps make the black color more vibrant during a bath. You put it on the dog, leave it for 10 minutes, rinse it. That's the one that I have used the most over the last 6 years, and I usually stick to it. Okay, how to groom the belly. That is, like I said, something that's really going to have to be shown. I do show it in my video. It's where I show you how to lift his leg, and I'm explaining how to lift the leg properly and safely and comfortably for the dog while you're doing the sanitary area, as well as some of the underline. Depends on how much hair your dog has to do like scissoring the underline. And depends on how much chest. So a deep-chested dog is not going to need as much hair on the underline. So you just really got to be careful to not catch nipples with shears. And if you want to do no underline, then you'll just use a clipper under there instead of shears. How to become a certified groomer, and if any of my clients ask to see my certificate. So the grooming industry is not regulated. It's not regulated by licensing, say like cosmetologists are, or barbers. So we do not have to have any certificate, and you can get certificates out there. There are a couple of accredited schools throughout the US that you can go, and you pay for the course. They teach you how to groom. You go, over. It depends on the school and depends on the course. Generally, they're just teaching you, like all, proper handling, how to safely groom animals, because, you're working with an animal and sharp tools. So it's a lot of safety. And then some schools will teach you like breed specific stuff. Some schools are just pet specific stuff. It really just depends on where you go and what they offer. I started with PetSmart, because I had already been showing dogs and grooming for years. So I just wanted my foot in the door with the industry. I did not want to apprentice under anybody in a private salon, which is a route you can take. But I started with PetSmart. They send you to their grooming academy. I was at their grooming academy for several weeks. They taught breed specific stuff and, pet trims. So the breed specific stuff goes over the AKC breed specific breed standard trims. Now, it really just depends on your instructor if they actually teach you hands-on those proper trims. I'm a stickler for proper breed patterns, like the Schnauzer pattern, for one. Like if someone's paying you for a breed standard trim, then it's, please try to do it correctly as a professional. Now, if a client asks you to do that differently, then, that's your client's wish. I am more so, my stance on that is I will do a breed specific trim on your dog that you ask for. If you ask me to modify it in a certain way, okay. But if it's to point to where, say, like you're asking for the pattern to be in a different location, say like they want a higher underline, or they want like a fuller beard, like that, if they want to change the pattern lines of that breed specific trim, that's not something that I'm going to do, because I'm not gonna have my name, like my business card, associated with an improper pattern line. So I just tell people, like, unfortunately, I only do breed specific unless you want a modified pet trim. But if that's not something that they're okay with, then I refer to them to groomers that are willing to do that. But as far as how many clients ask, like I said, the certificates that I have are different. I don't have a grooming certificate. I mean, I do. I got one whenever I finished the PetSmart Grooming Academy, but I don't necessarily count that as like a certificate for grooming, because it's not like I hold a license. I have a couple different certificates because of the continued education and safety courses that I have taken on my own in my free time, that we have hanging up in the lobby of our salon. And then I have the certificates that I have completed because I am pursuing my master groomer certification. And once I get all of those, there's going to be there'll be 4 total. Then I'll have those posted in our lobby as well. So if someone wants to see them, then they're on public display. But that's, like I said, that's pretty much it. There's no licensing to become a groomer. There is technically certifications, but you don't have to have any certifications. You're not going to have a certificate, say, like I mentioned earlier, if you apprentice under a private salon, you do not get a certificate that way. And apprenticeships are different, and it depends on each individual mentor that is taking you under and teaching you. Some, it's a year, some it's a couple years, it really just depends. And it depends on the person that is the apprentice. It depends on how quickly you learn and how quickly you work. Okay, so the next one is the ideal length for giants on their jacket. And their jacket is their body. So all of the clipper work on their body, from like the top of the head down the neck, the shoulders, and the body. That's more personal preference. As a professional groomer, I do not like going any shorter than a number 5. That is pretty short. I have a lot of owners, the average length on a Schnauzer jacket that I do by client request is a number 7, and that's pretty short. I have very few clients that do request shorter, which is a number 10, which is the shortest length that we can go, that is the safest as a professional in the industry. That is the same length of blade that we use on the sanitary area, the rear pattern, and the cheeks, neck, and some people do it on the ears. So a 10 is super short. Some people prefer a 7, but my personal opinion and my professional opinion is I do not like going any shorter than a 5. My personal dog that I started shaving, I usually do about a number 4 on his jacket, and he's the really hairy one that I post a lot of pictures of in the grooming group. And he's the one in my video. I believe I did a 5 on him because his owner does like something a little bit shorter. So I do a 5, and that is the shortest I will do on him. I won't go any shorter than a 5. But like I said, it's personal preference. There's a lot of owners out there that like shorter. There's a lot of owners out there that like longer. But a 4 will leave probably on a Schnauzer, or number 4 length will leave about not quite a 1/4 inch. So you've got a little bit of hair to work with. The longer blade length you go, so say like a 5 and a 4, so the higher the number, the shorter the lengths in the grooming industry. If you talk to barbers and cosmetologists, it's the opposite. So sometimes that can get a little confusing. So a number 5 is shorter than a number 4, and with those 2 lengths, it's going to be a lot easier to blend your pattern lines. So the shorter you go on the dog, the harder it is going to be to blend your pattern lines. Just keep that in mind. So if you do a number 7 or if you do a number 10 on the body or the jacket, it's going to be a lot harder to blend those pattern lines. What blade do I use under the guard combs in the videos? So I use a 30 blade underneath my guard combs at all times. Especially for the bigger dogs. A 30 blade is super short. Don't use it on the body. You can use a number 10 underneath guard combs, but it doesn't give as clean of a finish. It can look a little bit more choppy. It's not going to be as smooth, and you're going to have a lot more work after you use a guard comb. So say like you're going to have a lot more scissor work to make that really smooth and really clean. So I use a number 30. It's very, very rarely, depends on the dog's coat, I very rarely have a problem with a 30 looking kind of rough, kind of jagged. So that's pretty much industry standard, is using a 30 underneath guard combs. You just kind of have to be careful. Sometimes it depends on the guard comb, depends on the blade, depends on how you're using it, depends on the coat. If you hear any rattling, just check your blade, check your comb, because there's something that's not quite right fitting between the two, and your guard comb can eat your blades. So just kind of keep that in mind. if there's an fitment issue or a maintenance issue with your equipment, that your guard combs can tear up your blades. But I believe those are the only questions that I saw within the comments. And I really apologize if I talk too fast. I'm sorry. When I start, you know, getting concentrated on one thing and start talking, I tend to talk fast. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to go over to, you know, if you're coming from YouTube, you can find that group and find the videos, and feel free to leave me any questions or comments in the comments underneath my post or my video. You can search my name in the group and it'll pull up all of my posts. I think it's here on my YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure, because my name, it's, you know, it's Shayna Marie on Facebook. My first name is spelled kind of weird, so you can just look me up there. And yeah, I'm more than happy to make as many videos as you guys need. I would like to try to make more in the future, so, you know, just any questions, comments, just leave them, and I will try to make videos a lot sooner than I made this one. So thanks, guys.